Okay, here I'm going to show you what to do if you have button problems in one of these remotes. This is a wired remote, has a phone type jack on the bottom, 6-wire, and it's made for a bunch of different beds. This one's a Contour, but I've seen them for other beds as well. The model numbers are E90, E91, and E92. There might be some others. Different button configurations. Some of them only have these, some of them have these plus this, but you can tell it's got the phone plug. It's this shape with just different amounts of buttons, and they might be worded differently. So someone sent this in because the buttons were bad. A couple of the buttons were bad, and it was really hard to take apart because it was glued quite well together. It took me a while to get this open, and then once I got it open, I could see a much easier way of dealing with this. And I made this keypad, which is 3M peel and stick with new button domes on it. Now I've already repaired this one, so I'm not going to install or repair the new keypad in it. And I'm not going to actually do this, but what I'm suggesting people do, and for this keypad, is to use a very sharp X-Acto knife and to cut out the old keypad, and then stick in this new one right there. And behind this is like, plastic layers. There's metal domes underneath the buttons, but right along the edge is underneath this is a circuit board with no tracings. So you can cut the top and the sides with immunity. You're not going to cut through the circuit board. The bottom, I would be more careful with. I would do the sides and the top much more, and then you should be able to peel it up and be able to cut it off without really scratching through and potentially causing damage. You probably wouldn't, but how you deal with this is you would want to just go layer line along the edge and just do very light cuts at first to start a line, and then you could just get more. You keep repeating it and doing it more and more. And after you get a nice line in there, you're less likely to slip or whatever. However, you're replacing this whole thing, so it's not too important. You just don't want to cut into the plastic. You'll make a scratch mark that won't be able to go away. And just keep doing that on the top and the left and right sides. And you could do a little on the bottom, just get it started. But then you can do a little bit in the corners after that, top corners. And then you should be able to get in there and pick it up and start to peel it off. And then you peel it up, almost completely off. And then you might be able to tear it off if you've done a line already. Or you could just sort of finish it off while you're pulling on it. And that would be so you wouldn't cut too far through. I don't think you can cut through. Somebody might be able to, there's copper tracings down there and you might be able to cut through them, but most likely, it's a lot easier to cut through this plastic than copper. And but that's what you do. And then once you've got this off, it's probably got corrosion or something in there is why the buttons don't work. So you use isopropyl alcohol. I recommend the 91%. And a Q-tip or a toothbrush or rag, and just clean off. There's little gold contacts for the metal buttons. And we want to clean those off good with the isopropyl alcohol. And then this peels off. The brown paper would peel off, and you just stick it back down over the area you had just removed the buttons, the old keypad from. And that should take care of it if you have button problems. Now, if none of your buttons work, it very well could be something else, like the cord or this connector. Look in there and see, is it nice, like gold colored, or is it all like gray or fuzzy or blue or green or anything with corrosion? But it could be a problem with the bed or whatever. But if it did get corrosion, most likely like groups of buttons aren't going to work. It could take out a whole row. But if, say the position 2 button works, but all these up here don't, yeah, that's button problems. But if all your buttons don't work, there's really no indication that you know that this remote is the problem or the cable's the problem or whatever. So you might have to troubleshoot some more to try to figure out if it's the buttons or not. Another thing you could do is, if you're very careful at cutting this out, you could save it. It doesn't really stick down that well. Well, this has adhesive. This is just a little bit sticky. It's held in with the plastic because it's much bigger. I think the black part of this is about that long and completely and wider than this. But you could potentially cut that out, and if the buttons are great, then you could, I don't know if you have any double-sided tape, or you could use a little bit of, don't use super glue. Super glue will cause major problems, and the fumes from super glue can collect on metal, which will just make everything worse. But if you use like E6000 glue, or shoe goo or goop, one of those is my favorite. You could use little dabs in the corners and in the middle where it's not important, where there's no contacts and stuff. And that way you could find out before buying the replacement keypad if you do need buttons or not. But that's it. That's much easier than trying to cut the seams apart and pry this thing apart to get at that keypad.